الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبله وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وأجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم وغاصبي حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ومناقبهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم، والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. All praise and thanks to Allah for giving us an opportunity to be once again be part of the journey of Imam Husayn's saga, Imam Husayn's legacy, which is an eternal legacy, and to learn from and to improve ourselves. The topic which we will be going through for the first 10 nights is the eternal legacy of Imam Husayn, a journey through history, spirit, and struggle. Why we call it an eternal legacy is because we know that the principles which Imam Husayn stood for and the principles which Imam Husayn laid are eternal principles. And every year the reminder of Waqi Karbala, of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and the uprising of Imam Husayn alayhi salam contains within it all the message of Anbiya and Awliya. That's why when we recite Ziyarat of Imam Husayn, we say he's the waris of Adam, he's the waris of Ibrahim, he's the waris of Musa, he's the waris of Isa, he's the waris of Rasulullah. That means that all of these journeys which were led by all of these Anbiya, there was a journey or a methodology of Musa, there was a methodology of Isa, there was a methodology of Rasulullah. All of these methodology which led them, the Anbiya, and also the people who followed them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is contained within Imam Husayn alayhi salam, because he's the waris of that. So a reminder of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam every year reminds us, prepares us for that journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way possible. So it remains an eternal legacy. Every year when we revisit Ashura, when we revisit the Waqi Karbala, we learn a lot from it. It provides us with a goal, with a purpose, with a hadaf, with a direction. Apart from what it has within it in terms of so much of reward, sawab, in the hereafter, you will be provided with reward of 70 Hajj. Those are things of the hereafter in regards to what a person will achieve. And many a times these things are there to encourage people so that they gather, so that they have that majlis, because they are expecting some sort of sawab, so they come here. So when they come here to discuss Imam Husayn alayhi salam, obviously they will improve themselves, they will learn from what Imam Husayn have to give. So apart from all of that, and apart from how it provides a community, a society, followers in regards to art, culture, values, so many things, etiquettes, that through Majalis of Imam Husayn happens. What we see all around us is nothing but because of the barakat of Imam Husayn. The art the poetry, just recited, the tahzeeb, charity, gatherings, seeing each other every year, whether that be a small gathering or big gathering. Imagine that all over the world now, the majalises have started and people are gathering, and so much of poetry is done, so much of charity is done, so much of, what do you call, uh, improvement in regards to culture, and so many things happen. That also there. It's just the whole nahzat of Imam Husayn. Is the uprising of Imam Husayn is bringing that, to us, to our community. Now, what we would like to do is to begin with now is to reflect a bit upon. We have seen that everything is in movement. Everything is moving. तग़यीर, हर चीज़ जो है तब्दील और तग़यीर हो रही है, तग़यीरात है, changes हो रहे हैं. Everything is moving. Nothing stops, nothing stagnates. Now, whether this movement is towards kamal, perfection, or betterment, or towards deterioration. For example, last year, Haidar was this tall. This year, Haidar is taller. Last year, I was a bit younger. Now I'm older. Unlike some people who become younger. Last year I saw Wali. Now I saw Wali again. He looks much younger than last year. बाज़ लोग ऐसे होते हैं. So, so there's change every year that takes place. Nothing is stagnated. This means that there is harakat, there is movement. As from a philosophical point of view, one will call this as substantial movement. One of the great philosophers who was known as Sadruddin Shirazi, he came up with this concept while reflecting. That's what the philosophers do. They kind of reflect upon the existence, upon the reality of things. What is this wujud? What is that? What is that? Why are they reflecting on these things? In order to understand God more, right? So now, when he reflected, he come to the understanding and realization of that there is movement in everything. And this movement is towards kamal and perfection, right? And as a Muslim philosopher, everything is based upon the Quran and Sunnat, Quran and Hadith of the Anbiya. Now, the principle of the Quran is that the mountains will become clouds on the day of judgment. The eye of the Quran is there, right? So now, even the mountains which are solid will change into clouds, will change into very light sort of substance. The whole substance have changed. It is a mountain, now all of a sudden it's changed to something else. This means that there's a gradual change. Even if you look at it, for example, a child, a baby, when it's born, there's a change. There's always improvement, right? Not just on the physical side of things, but even the mental side of things, a person improves, right? That's why there's a hadith which says that, a moment is not a moment unless a day he improves. He doesn't have the same day compared to yesterday. Today is something else. Today he improves. So there is this harakat and movement all the time. So therefore, there is also harakat and movement in time as well. The time itself, the existential reality of time. Not just the makan. Makan is moving, as we said. Like mountains moving, this place moving, everything is moving. Okay? And it's going to change eventually. As they say, Yawma tubla sarair, on the day of judgment, the secrets will come out. This makan, it may look like this, but the true reality of this makan is nothing but light. Because it's the house of Zahra. It's Azakhane Zahra. Outwardly speaking, it looks like a makan. But on the day of judgment, the secrets will come out. Yawma tubla sarair, So that means that this makan will transform to light, and that reality will be seen. Okay, we as human beings will reach to a point that we will be able to see the angels. This eye is unable to see the angels, but on the day of judgment, in barzakh, in hereafter, we'll be able. So there's a improvement of that. There's a change not of it. So therefore, there's not only change in terms of the makan, but in terms of the time as well, there is change. And we could say, and we could understand clearly that, like for example, Inna anzalna fi laylatil qadr. The Laylatul Qadr which happened last year, it's not going to be the same Laylatul Qadr. It will be a different Laylatul Qadr. So the same with the Muharram that we commemorate every year is going towards Kamal and perfection. As in Zaman. As it's going towards Kamal and perfection, we are participating in this Zaman, we also go towards Kamal and perfection. So the Zaman is also going towards Kamal and perfection. That is why we see, for example, the understanding of our children in comparison to the understanding of Muharram 100 years ago is very different. I mean, imagine now, who would have spoken about Mullah Sadr 100 years ago from a mimbar? You know what I mean? About, although he lived, in 1600, 400-500 years ago he lived. But now I could explain and speak about it, and the children are listening and understanding. So the Zaman have improved. As the Zaman have improved, it has also improved the people who are participating in this Zaman to understand something higher. So the Makan, or we as human being, as physical reality in the outward sense, appreciates the Zaman, and also the Zaman appreciates us as well by giving us what we deserve. So Muharram from last year is very different this year. And it has reached to a higher level of perfection and Kamal. Because this Zaman is also coming to Hatta Matla'il till Layl Fajr. Salamun hiya hatta till the tulu of Fajr. That's salam. It's gradually, and it's coming closer to the time of the reappearance of Imam al-Asr alayhi salam as well. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala where it reaches that perfection. Right. So now what we have to look at it, as we said, that we're going to look and reflect a bit upon history as well. Those individuals, those personalities which we may refer to them as Anbiya, as prophets, as awliya, as saints, they are the leaders of this Zaman. They are the caretakers of this Makan. And while understanding the Zaman and Makan, while understanding what is happening in the society and community, and because they are in connection with the one who is making all of these changes, which is Allah, they come up with principles, with ideas, with knowledge, and they provide to the community and society. And through that knowledge that is provided to us, we improve, we learn, we come closer to Allah. And that's what one may refer to as revolution as well. All of the Anbiya and Awliya, they were revolutionaries. They brought that revolution because they understood the Zaman and Makan, and they provided what was required for that Zaman and Makan. Imam Husayn alayhi salam in the same fashion. But what Imam Husayn have provided is so timeless. It was not only for that time, it is eternal, what he has given. And that's why they say there's no day like the day of Abu Abdullah. La yawmuka yawmuka Abu Abdullah. There's no day like the day of Abu Abdullah. Because day of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam has so much of blessing and barakah and lesson and teachings and knowledge that there isn't any day like that. Everything what Allah have sent through all of the Anbiya and Awliya and all of the books, if you bring them all together to one point, that is the day of Abu Abdullah. So now, for that day to become that day, required an individual, a personality, that who could determine, who could closely watch the events and take the right steps to fulfill that. It's actually the meeting of the heaven and earth. And that's why when you look at the Masa'ib of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, there's so much depth in it. There's so much of meaning in it. It is Masa'ib, but at the same time it's so powerful. There's so many layers of interpretation of it. For example, if you look at the Safar of Imam Husayn, the journey of Imam Husayn, when did he leave? Why did he leave? There's multifaceted, there are layers, there are different dimensions of Safar Imam Husayn. When it happened? 28th of Safar. When is 28th of Safar? Right after the 27th. What is 27th? Is Mab'as. The beginning of Quran. The beginning of Quran happened on the 27th, and Imam Husayn began his journey on the 28th. So that's particularly in regards to Imam Husayn alayhi salam, his sayings and his actions and his efforts have layers of interpretation. And that's why you would even find in regards to the Masa'ib of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, the Maqtal of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Usually, our Maulanas, they tend to read as in Masa'ib and he passes. They pass away. They pass to another stage of the Musibat. But even that Musibat that is recited must be analyzed and reflected. Then we will come to a deeper understanding of what that is. For example, why Imam Husayn asked one day instead of 9th, he said 10th. Give me one night to worship. We know that, right? So that, I could worship tonight, so on and so forth, so that his shahada is on the 10th. The Quran talks about, the 10 nights. And then the victory after that. Very Quranic. Surah Fajr. وَلَيَالِي الْعَشْرِ. The 10 nights, right? Or, for example, this could be very Quranic based. But you could also see, for example, they say that on the 10th, Hazrat Ali Asghar becomes a complete 6-month-old baby. Right. For a Qurbani, the sheep or the lamb that is required must be older than 6 months. Right? So, there's multi-facet, multi-layers. It's a historic event, but in this history, there's so many things. That's the beauty of Imam Husayn alayhi salam and the story of God. Now, as we are going to be discussing the Safar of Imam Husayn, as in Masa'ib, especially on the first night, that's what it is discussed. It requires how it is related to us, the Safar of Imam Husayn. Although it is also important to look at the personality of Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil, the first shaheed of the Nahzat of Imam Husayn, of the uprising of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Just a little bit to our, youngsters. Muslim ibn Aqil was the first cousin of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. He was the son of Aqil. Aqil, was brother of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Muslim was somebody who was with Imam Ali in all of the battles. And he was in Jamal, he participated the battle of Jamal. Muslim also participated in the battle of Siffin. He participated in the battle of Nahrawan. These are the 3 battles with Imam Ali alayhi salam fought. In all of these 3 battles, he was there. And he was with Imam Hassan alayhi salam as well. This shows the loyalty and the sincerity of Muslim ibn Aqil from the very beginning. And perhaps that could be the very reason that Imam Husayn chose Muslim ibn Aqil, because people were writing letters to Imam Husayn that the Khalifa, outward Khalifa who was living at that time, Muawiyah, he died, and now we are ready to accept you as the Khalifa so that you can come to Kufa. Now, Muslim ibn Aqil, as he was with Imam Ali as salam in all of these battles, that means he was with Imam Ali in Kufa as well. So you can imagine that how Muslim would have felt that in a town where he was part and parcel of the Khilafat of the Khalifa of Muslimin of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Kufa, where he's shoulder to shoulder with Imam Ali, that he was left all alone in Kufa. Some of them say, Shaykh Mutahiri says that Muslim tasted the ghurbat before Imam Husayn alayhi salam. The first shahadat was with ghurbat. The last shahadat was with ghurbat. The beginning, huwa al-awwal huwa al-akhir. Same, the principle of ghurbat is there. The principle of ghurbat in the beginning and the principle of ghurbat is there in the end. Right? So Muslim was the first cousin of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, and he was sent by Imam Husayn to Kufa, as the Kufans were inviting Imam Husayn alayhi salam to give bay'ah, and that was the capital place, and that was the closest point if there be any battle with the Syrians, with those who were stationed in Syria, which was the capital for the Bani Umayyah. That's where they were based at. So Muslim went, and once again the Kufans, they betrayed. Muslim ibn Aqil, that's a very deep, interesting story, what happened with him. Inshallah, when we will be speaking a bit about the children of Muslim ibn Aqil tomorrow, because we're going to be reciting their Masaib tomorrow, we're going to look a bit about how the situation of Kufa was, Ibn Ziyad when he came in, so on and so forth, and how what a tyrant ruler Ibn Ziyad, or the governor, was. Now today, as we said, we're going to look a bit about the Safar of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Now, if you look at Imam Husayn alayhi salam's, martyrdom, shahadat is in 61 Hijri. His Safar started in 60 Hijri because it's in Rajab, just before, and 61 Hijri, which is a few months after that is Muharram, and then he was killed in 61 Hijri. Now in 60 Hijri, the journey of Imam Husayn begins. And like as we said earlier, from a sociological or philosophical point of view, the individual, the personality who is taking that step is reflecting, is seeing, and is calculating what is coming in the future, what is going to be happen, not just in his life, but something that the trajectory, but something that is eternal. It has to be something that is eternal. It has to be something that the true principle of inni tarikum fikum al-thaqlain, kitab Allah wa itrati, must be established, because the whole society, the Islamic society at that time, have deviated completely, which we're going to give examples gradually. What happened during the first Khalifa period, where hadith was mamnu. The Prophet is saying sunnat, for example, for them as well. They say Allah have left the sunnat of Rasulullah and kitab, wa sunnati wa kitab, they say, for example, right? But the first Khalifa, he completely said Hasbuna kitab Allah. Why that happened? What was the reason for it being happening? Many may say that, well, for example, the reason perhaps, if we look at from a point of view of not being, not taking the line of sectarianism, we give the benefit of doubt. For example, he was something very much dedicated to the Quran, he loved the Quran so much, okay, so on and so forth, okay, agreed, fine. But you have completely closed the door of Ahlul Bayt here, where Rasulullah is completely, in all of his life, reminding people of Ahl Bayt. When you are abandoning the hadith of Rasulullah, what does that mean? The door of the house of Rasulullah is closed. Where will they get the hadith of Rasulullah? Who will authenticate the hadith of Rasulullah? Okay, you are banning the hadith of Rasulullah because people are making up hadith here and there. Okay, if they are making hadith here and there, bring that hadith to the children of Rasulullah and ask whether Rasulullah said this or not. When you are abandoning and banning it completely, you are closing the door of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. You're not allowing people to come to the Ahl Bayt, right? So this have already started. The Islamic community or the Islamic nation have started deviating from those principles which was laid by the Prophet. As the Quran clearly points out to, where it says that, Ma as'alukum alayhi ajran illa mawaddata fil qurba. I ask for no reward or no sort of payment except that you have the mawaddat, you have that extreme love for the Ahl Bayt of my family, which is the ayah of the Quran. But what we see, for example, if you believe in Rasulullah and Rasulullah is saying that, what you did to the grandson of Rasulullah. Rasulullah कह रहे हैं कि मवद्दत हो अहल बैत से और मुसलमानों ने रसूल के नवासे को ही शहीद कर दिया. It's like a bit strange, right? What is the sunnah of Rasulullah? What is the Quran saying? You are saying Quran kafi hai, Quran is enough. Was this ideology or this understanding that the Quran is enough was not existing in Sham with the Khalifa? It was existing. Okay, you're saying Quran is enough. What does the Quran say? How many months of haram are there? Muharram is a month of haram. Qada is a month of haram. Dhul Hijjah is a month of haram. Rajab is the month of haram. These 4 months been mentioned, Quran mein likha hua hai. 4 months, these are haram. What does that mean? Months of haram means that you cannot have war. You cannot kill anyone in these 4 months. No fighting in these 4 months. And this was something not as a rule of the ayah of the Quran, but even before Islam, this rule was there. Because Hajj was always there. So Hajj is the month of Zilhijj. So people coming from different parts of the Arabia, they need safety. In order that their life be saved, in order nobody attacks them, the Arabs before Islam, they said that, okay, we're not going to fight each other in the month of Zilhijjah. Because it's a month of, pilgrimage and business and whatnot. People before Zilhijjah, they have to travel, which is Ziqat. Ziqat also becomes. After Zilhijjah, they perform Hajj, Muharram, they have to travel back. That is also haram. And then Rajab as a special sort of spiritual month, they have made it as haram, something very far from these months, right? So even this was the sunnah, or this was the practice of the Jahil Arab. Even those Arabs before Islam, they will not fight in the month of Hizbuna Kitab Allah, right? Book is enough for us. The Quran is saying that you cannot kill or fight. In which month they killed the very grandson of the Prophet who brought the Quran? When you are saying the book is enough, why are you doing this? So Imam Husayn completely realized and understood that the Islam have been hijacked. Islam have lost its, what do you call, the true path of it. So there has to be something done in order to bring Islam back where it belonged, which is the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, the true interpreters of the Quran. Fasalu ahl al-zikr, as the Quran says, seek knowledge from the Ahl al-zikr, people who have knowledge. right? Come to them and ask in regards to them. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha wa kunu ma'as sadiqin. O people who have taqwa, and who have brought iman, be with the truthful one. Who are the truthful ones? The Hezbollah Khitabat group is the truthful ones. For example, if you look at the history of the Khulafa of the Umayyads or the Abbasites, who they were and what they were, nothing as bias. Read anybody who is even not an Orientalist who have written about the period of Khilafat of the Umayyads and the Abbasids. Read about what the history have spoken about them, right? So Imam Husayn have to calculate all of these things. What is happening in the society at that time, and what is required from him in order that the Islam basically is not hijacked and is brought to the true caretakers, not only in that period or after him, just after him, no, till eternity. And he did that. So the safar of Imam Husayn is that, the beginning of a journey which is multifaceted, which have many dimensions, different layers. Like, for example, now if you look at why did he choose to leave Medina? Why did he leave Medina? He could have stayed in Medina. The reason he left Medina was because in Medina, the governor who was appointed by the Khalifa of that time, Muawiyah, after his death, he asked for allegiance, for bay'ah, that Imam Husayn should pay allegiance to Yazid. If Imam Husayn did not pay allegiance, the possibility of them killing Imam Husayn in Medina was there. So Imam Husayn will be massacred and killed and ambushed in Medina. It will be over. Or the possibility of that they may not kill, they will just allow Imam Husayn to carry on as they allowed, Abdullah ibn Umar to live in Medina, who was the son of the first Khalifa. He did not give bay'ah to Yazid as well, right, in the beginning. And then they didn't do anything to him. He left. He was praying and he stayed there. So that could be Imam Husayn as well. But no, Imam Husayn says, I'm not giving bay'ah. I'm not giving bay'ah. You kill me here, possibility, it's all calculation. A personality calculates what will happen if I don't. If I make a move, what will happen? If I don't make a move, what will happen? What will be the end result of it? Right? So here Imam Husayn did not give bay'ah and did not stay in Medina. He said, I'm going to go to Makkah. He chose going to Makkah. Well, people are writing him from Kufa. Why don't you go to Kufa? He said, no, I want to go to Makkah. Right? He goes to Makkah. Now, as he embarks from Rajab, he reaches there in the month of Ramadan. And from Ramadan, even as we all know, even today, people tend to start preparing and start going to Hajj. It's a massive gathering of all Muslims in Makkah. And that's where Imam Husayn says that, I'm going to go to Makkah and that's where I will give the message of Islam. That's where I will inform people that, I'm the only grandson left from the Prophet. And the present people know about the whole history. About the Battle of Siffin they are aware of. About Imam Ali they are aware of. And they are coming to Hajj there. And the grandson is there. It's an honor to be with the grandson, right? And to a certain level, there is some sort of sanctuary and security because Abdullah ibn Zubayr is the Hakim of Makkah. And he was also against the Khalifa of that time. So the infiltration will not be that powerful as the leeway and him being massacred and being killed in Medina, because the governor is somebody who is appointed by the Khalifa. But in Makkah, it is not like that. Makkah is Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who is also against the Khalifa of that time, right? So the possibility of some sort of security is there, because they say that Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who was the head of the Makkah, he would come to Imam Husayn every day to pay respect. In the tent of Imam Husayn, he would come to Imam Husayn every day to pay respect, to sit with him, to speak to him. The reason this is analyzed is because one day, because there isn't any sort of indication that he was coming to visit Imam Husayn every day. But it is based on, one day he comes to Imam Husayn and he says that, I'm sorry I couldn't come. And he apologizes that he couldn't come to pay respect to him, which makes us understand that he was somebody who was going to Imam Husayn every day to respect him. And even Imam Husayn, before leaving Makkah, he asked Abdullah ibn Zubayr, what do you want to do, join me or not? He said, no, I would rather stay here. And we know what was in the destiny of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. He was holding the cloth of Kaaba, but still Yazid sent his soldiers and he was killed in Kaaba. Right? Imam Husayn's calculation is something else. Right? His insight, his resolve, his purpose, his inspiration, his connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is something else. And you have Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who is very much close to the Kaaba as well. He's, from a Zahiri point of view, outward point of view, he's in Kaaba itself. Even some say that he had a bedroom on top of Kaaba. He was living there. But here is Imam Husayn. He left Medina. And for Ahl Bayt to leave Medina was always a very hard decision. They would never like to leave Medina. And you have seen this, that all of the Imams, they were in Medina. They were forced to leave Medina because they don't want to leave Medina. They want to be in Medina. Right? Imam Raza alayhi salam, we have seen this. Imam Jafar al-Sadiq was in Imam. All of the Imams, they were forced to leave Medina, to Baghdad or to Khurasan or to, other places in Iraq. They were forced. So here Imam Husayn leaves Medina. And as a matter of fact, perhaps he's one of the first Imams leaving Medina in this fashion. Imam Ali also left Medina. He was there as in capital. His house was still there. But Imam Husayn leaves Medina. And he comes to Makkah so that he could spread the message. And then once again he leaves Makkah as well, because there were people planning to murder Imam Husayn near the Kaaba. Now here once again a very subtle principle, and then Masaib. See, for Imam, what is the purpose of Imam Husayn? The purpose of Imam Husayn is to establish the principle of deen, of religion. Haq और हकीकत दीन को बयान करना है, उसकी तबयीन करना है, उसकी तशरीह करना है. He wants to establish religion. What is the principle of religion? That the Makkah, what is the rule of religion? Is that the Makkah is a safe haven, is a sanctuary. You should not even kill a bird there. Right? And what is the ruling? That when you wear ihram, you're not supposed to have any weapons. When you wear ihram. Now, Imam Husayn alayhi salam have ashab and everybody. The same way those people who are hiding swords in their, ihram, Imam Husayn could have done that the same. And could have fought and could have killed. But that's not the purpose. As they say that the ends rectifies or justifies the means, or the means justifies for Imam Husayn, so it's not like that. The end does not justify the means. The whole journey of Imam Husayn is a pure journey. Every step of it. There's no little sort of contamination of falsehood. It's completely true. There's no contamination there. That's why it's the eternal legacy. Because there's no contamination in it. Right? And that's why I would even go to the extent of saying why Hazrat Zainab said, I saw nothing but in the beauty in the plain of Karbala. Because shimmer is also beautiful. Why he is beautiful? Because he is pure evil. For example, کالا ہے, کالا رنگ, ٹھیک ہے, black color, right? In this black color, یہ کالے رنگ میں تھوڑی سی سفیدی, تھوڑا ایک نقطہ سفید آ جائے تو وہ اس کالے کی خوبصورتی ختم ہو جائے گی. Something that is evil have to be evil. اس میں اتنی بھی خوبی نہیں رہ سکتی. Something that is good, سفید ہے, has to be white. Right? So that's why one of the ways of interpreting that is that as well. Right? So Imam Husayn's movement, his actions, what he has done is 100% nothing but true. So he leaves Makkah because he was going to be killed in Makkah. He wanted to protect the sanctuary, of Makkah. After giving that message, he leaves Makkah towards Kufa. And he had already sent Muslim ibn Aqil. Now, this journey of Imam Husayn, leaving Medina, جیسا میں عرض کر رہا تھا, بہت ہی مشکل ہے معصومین کے لیے مدینہ چھوڑنا. اور پھر جب امام حسین علیہ السلام 27 کی رات کو عبادت کر رہے ہیں, کیونکہ 27 کی رات ہے شب معراج, شب مبعث کی رات, عبادت کی رات. جب ہم اور آپ 27 کی رات عبادت میں گزارتے ہیں, یہ تو ہمارے امام ہیں, یہ تو نواسے رسول ہے. پوری رات کہا گیا ہے کہ امام حسین مسجد النبوی میں تھے, عبادت کر رہے تھے. اور پھر اس عبادت کے دوران امام کو ایک مکاشفہ ہوا ہے. امام کو ایک عجیب منظر دکھلایا گیا, عالم رویا میں ایک منظر دکھلایا گیا. وہ یہ منظر تھا کہ رسول اللہ وہاں پر موجود ہے اور رسول ایک عظیم مقام کی طرف اشارہ کر رہے ہیں جو نورانی ہے, اور نواسے سے مخاطب ہو کے کہہ رہے ہیں, اے حسین یہ تیرا مقام ہے. امام حسین خوش ہوتے ہیں کہ یہ ان کا مقام ہے, نورانی مقام ہے, عظیم مقام ہے. لیکن ساتھ ساتھ رسول کہہ رہے ہیں, اے حسین یہ مقام کربلا کی طرف سے ہے, تجھے کربلا جانا ہے, پھر اس کے بعد اس مقام پہ آنا ہے. یہ ایک قوت قلب امام حسین علیہ السلام کو دی گئی یہاں پر. 27 کی رات وہ قوت قلب امام حسین کو رسول دے رہے ہیں, اور اس قوت قلب کے ساتھ امام حسین واپس آتے ہیں اور پھر اپنے خانوادے سے اور اہلیہ سے اور بچوں سے کہتے ہیں کہ آمادہ ہو اور تیار ہو جاؤ سفر کے لیے. اور ام سلمہ کے پاس جاتے ہیں اور ام سلمہ سے خداحافظی کرتے ہیں, زوجہ رسول ہے. اور یہاں پہ خداحافظی کرتے ہوئے کہتے ہیں کہ نانی جان, وہ خاک جو رسول نے آپ کو دی تھی, جو نانا نے آپ کو دی تھی, جب وہ خاک خون میں تبدیل ہو جائے تو یہ جان لینا کہ میں شہید ہو چکا ہوں. یہاں پہ ام سلمہ کہتی ہے کہ حسین تم تو اپنے مقصد میں کامیاب ہو جاؤ گے, تم جا رہے ہو, لیکن اپنے بیوی اور بچوں کو یہاں چھوڑ جاؤ. بہن کو کیوں ساتھ لے جا رہے ہو, چھوٹے بچوں کو کیوں ساتھ لے جا رہے ہو. یہاں پہ امام حسین کہتے ہیں کہ ان کا بھی امتحان ہے نانی جان. اور واقعاً جب خداحافظی کی, اور پھر امام حسین کی ایک بیٹی تھی فاطمہ صغرا, کہا گیا ہے کہ فاطمہ صغرا علیل تھی, بیمار تھی, اور اس بچی سے خداحافظی کرنا آسان نہیں تھا حسین کے لیے, اور یہ بچی کے لیے بھی آسان نہیں تھا باپ کو خداحافظی کرنا. ابھی نو مولود نیا چھوٹا بچہ علی اصغر کی پیدائش ہوئی ہے رجب میں ہی. کس طرح سے علی اصغر کی اور فاطمہ صغرا کی خداحافظی ہوگی. علی اصغر کو فاطمہ صغرا نہیں دے رہی ہے. یہاں پہ امام حسین اور علی اصغر بھی فاطمہ صغرا کو نہیں چھوڑ رہے ہیں. کہا گیا ہے کہ یہاں پہ امام حسین علی اصغر کے پاس آتے ہیں اور کچھ کان میں کہتے ہیں, اور پھر یہ چھوٹا بچہ اپنے آپ کو باپ کے گودی میں گرا دیتا ہے، اسی طرح سے جس طرح سے گہوارے سے عاشور کے دن اپنے آپ کو باپ کی گودی میں گرا دیا۔ یہاں پہ پوچھا گیا امام حسین علیہ السلام سے کہ آپ نے علی اصغر سے کیا کہا؟ امام حسین کہا حل من ناصر ینصرنا۔ اس پکار کو یاد دلائی کہ کوئی میرا مددگار ہے۔ حسین تک وہ تنہا ہے، کربلا کا میدان ہے، تمام صحابی اور اصحاب شہید ہو چکے ہیں، اور یہاں پہ حسین کہہ رہے ہیں حل من ناصر ینصرنا۔ علی اصغر کی گریہ کی آواز آ رہی ہے، اسی طرح سے جس طرح سے علی اصغر اپنے آپ کو گہوارے سے حسین کے پاس جاتے ہیں، یہاں پہ بھی اسی طرح سے کاروان آمادہ ہو چکا ہے، قافلہ آمادہ ہو چکا ہے، پردے کا انتظام کیا گیا ہے۔ کیا شان سے قافلہ نکلا ہے حسین ابن علی کا، پردے کا انتظام ہے۔ لیکن یہاں پر میں یہ بھی کہوں گا کہ یہ ایک قسم سے قافلہ نکلا تھا، اور عاشور کے دن وہ قافلہ بھی، وہ اسیران شام بھی کس طرح سے نکلے تھے۔ اور یہاں پہ جب امام حسین علیہ السلام خداحافظی کر رہے ہیں، ضرور اپنی ماں کی قبر پہ بھی گئے ہوئیں گے خداحافظی کے لیے، اور پھر جب اپنی ماں کے قبر پہ گئے ہیں، گریہ کیا ہے، خداحافظی کی ہے، اور پھر وہ وعدہ جو ماں نے دیا تھا اسے یاد دلایا۔ وہ وعدہ کیا تھا؟ جب امام علی علیہ السلام نے فاطمہ الزہرا کو غسل اور کفن کر کے میت کو لٹا دیا، یہاں پر امام علی نے کہا ہے ایک بچوں سے ماں سے خداحافظی کر لو، اور ایک ایک بچہ آگے بڑھ کے اپنے ماں سے خداحافظی کر رہا ہے، لیکن حسین قریب نہیں آ رہے ہیں۔ یہاں پہ علی نے کہا کہ حسین تم بھی خداحافظی کرو۔ یہاں پہ حسین کہتے ہیں کہ جب تک میری ماں نہیں بلائے گی میں نہیں جاؤں گا۔ تو علی کہتے ہیں واللہ بند کفن کھل گئے اور زہرا کے ہاتھ آگے نکلے گئے، حسین میرے پاس آ جا۔ اور یہاں پہ حسین نے اپنے ماں سے وعدہ لیا تھا، ماں آپ نے مجھے یہاں بلایا تو میں آیا ہوں، اور وہ دن بھی آئے گا کہ میں آپ کو پکاروں گا، کربلا کا میدان ہوگا اور آپ تشریف لے آنا۔ اور جب حسین گھوڑے کی زین سے گر رہے تھے اپنے ماں کو صدا کیا، اور ماں وہاں پر موجود تھی، اور اسی لیے میر انیس نے کیا جملہ کہا ہے کہ شمر نے جب خنجر چلانا شروع کیا کہنے لگا کہ میں بہن اور بھائی کا گلا ساتھ کاٹوں گا، اور یہاں پہ آواز آئی کہ اے شمر تو نابینا ہے، بہن زینب نہیں زہرا ہے۔ اللہ لعنت اللہ علی قوم الظالمین، سیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون۔ ماتم حسین، یا حسین۔